and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm sorry, not appreciated. Okay, so we're going to start off tonight's agenda with a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. The agenda for this evening has been approved. We also need a motion to approve the minutes from March 28th.
Motion to approve the minutes from March 28th, 2025. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion has been approved. Minutes from 3/28 are approved. Next up on our agenda for tonight, school committee chairperson comments. I don't have anything for tonight, so we're going to move on to community comments. Starting with folks who are present with us here tonight. Do we have any folks from the community who have comments to bring to the school committee? Okay, how about our online presence, Sam?
I see no hands raised as of.
Okay. All right, then having no community comments, we're going to move on to the next item on our agenda, which will be student comments. And we'd like to hear first from our Nipmuc School Committee student representative tonight.
Yes, so unfortunately Dia could not make it. She's feeling unwell. So I'll be commenting on her points as well. So first, the group that went to Disney World last week successfully made it back home early Tuesday morning. The trip,
That's always good.
yeah, successfully, tired, but successfully. As I said, Tuesday morning, it was like 3 a.m. The trip was filled with fun rides, fun opportunities to improve musicianship as well. The average day consisted of waking up at about 7 a.m., getting our meal tickets, eating breakfast, and loading onto a bus to one of the parks at 8:30, and we would stay there until about 7 at night. So needless to say, we spent many hours, and we walked many miles enjoying the parks. This continued for 5 days, give or take. One day it torrentially downpoured, so, but I would just like to thank Mr. Harding and Ms. Simmons, and all the chaperones that went. I mean, the trip was just so organized. They put in so much time organizing it. It was all in all a very successful trip. Similarly, last week, last Friday night specifically, the class of 2022 held a dodgeball tournament in the Nipmuc gym to raise money for various senior events. The tournament featured some very cool dodges, some one-on-one gameplay. I'd like to take this time to give a shout out to the winners of the tournament. So Noah Curley, Joey Acker, Bennett House, Brady Campbell, Cole Ferris, Jack Bruno, Connor Lacrosse, Matt Lindbruno, Andrew Jacques, and Colin Burchard. Like I said, they won the tournament. So congrats to them. Moving on to this week. This week at Nipmuc is Wellness Week. So I'm sure the committee's familiar. Wellness Week is essentially a time to spread awareness of wellness practices, promote healthy lifestyles, and learn ways to cope with stress. I know these past 2 years have been very stressful and very hard on members of the student body. The week actually started last weekend with a Warrior Wind Down weekend, where students enjoyed a homework-free weekend. And it's continuing to, starting today with Music Monday, and tomorrow Tension-Free Tuesday, then Workout Wednesday, Thoughtful Thursday, and finally Fandom Friday. But this week on Tuesday, so tomorrow and Thursday, students have the opportunity to sign up for activities such as thoughtfully walking outside, meditation. I personally chose meditation for Tuesday and relax with music for Thursday, which I'm looking forward to. And then additionally, this Wednesday from 8 to 6 p.m. is the English Language Arts Night. This event is a showcase for student work and an induction night for the National English Honor Society as well. The community is welcome to attend and to view all the hard work of Mendon-Upton writers. And finally, I know last meeting, I mentioned we'd update the committee on any updates to our visit to Memorial, and I'm very excited to announce that tomorrow, Dee and I will be touring Memorial Elementary from 11 to 1:30. During this time, we will be visiting with students during their lunches to just get an understanding on how they feel about elementary school, just to broaden our representation. Like I said, very excited to gain this new understanding and input from students who we also.
Very cool. But what have you done with the really?
That's what she said.
Michael, with the Disney trip, was there any work product that you all produced while you were down there?
There was, and I was actually thinking about presenting it here, but that was a last minute thought. So the band and the chorus had separate workshops. I know, so I'm in the band. So we did a little excerpt from The Lion King. So we played our music, they recorded it, and then they put it over. We have that recording. I didn't know how it would work with Zoom and that being recorded because of like.
Yeah, I feel like we've had copyright issues come up with that before.
Yeah, but it was good. Rest assured, it was pretty good.
Yeah. At least it's a great memento for you guys to have.
Absolutely. Yeah, very cool.
Okay, so next up on our agenda is the Misco Hill Middle School financial literacy presentation. I'm assuming that this is what our group is for tonight.
Not a protest.
I don't even know how to respond to that. I'm going to say that I'm much more excited to hear about what our students are doing.
It's going to be awesome.
So fantastic. We'd love to hear from you guys.
We'll toss the slides at your back. Yes. So, fine.
Test 1, 2. I'd like to have our financial experts come on up.
Join us and we'll do a standing presentation.
That mic's not
The speaker makes a difference. Want me to turn it up? That's just.
Try that.
So tonight's presentation focuses on the 7th grade financial literacy project focused on the Future Smart program through EverFi, led by Mr. Barr and Mrs. Kadra, who are a little under the weather tonight. Really send their regards. They put a lot of time and effort, and I just want to take a moment to recognize all the effort that is. So if I had $1 for every time I heard someone say, "Why didn't we learn about personal finance in school?" You won't. This is the evidence on videotape that no 7th grader at Misco Hill Middle School will ever be able to say that, because they spent several weeks, once a week, looking at a few modules developed by the Future Smart program. So just want to walk you a little bit through kind of like the intersection of 3 really important resources. First is EverFi. It's a digital platform that we use across the curriculum that deals with a lot of work-related education, financial literacy, SEL. We use it in a lot of our technology courses as well. That is provided free to us. The second item is Nepris, also known as ASA Engage. That is a platform that's brought to us through our Partnership with American Student Assistance, which connects us with experts in different industries from throughout the globe. So for this project, we had financial services experts from as far as Ghana who spoke to us, California. We also had some local folks in the financial services industry, Lauren Tangler, Sonic Consigli, and Dan Consigli, who zoomed in from Washington, D.C. And so it was like both a community and a global effort for this project. And then finally tying this all together is the Missile Hill Inspired Innovation Center, which brings the technology resources for maker and career-oriented learning. So it's the intersection of these three pieces that bring us all together. So just kind of a roadmap of how this started. So students in their math class spent basically Wednesdays, was it Wednesdays typically that you did? So Wednesdays were Future Smart Wednesdays, where they went through one of seven modules that discussed a range of topics, from setting your budget priorities to what is a budget, what is income, what are expenses, what is credit, what are student loans, what does interest mean on student loans, all through the lens of running a mayor and a town to be more financially sufficient. Once they went through the modules, they spent time in their math classes designing a project with peers. They picked what topic that they wanted to focus on. So was it budgeting? Was it planning for college? Was it saving for a rainy day? And then what would be the best medium to deliver that message to either a peer or someone in elementary school? From the project planning, then starting in the last couple of weeks, we tried to give them at least 2 rounds of feedback. The first was we spent a Friday together where I and the peers came together just to give them feedback on ways to either kind of tweak some of the content pieces of it or to work on some of the presentation aspects. That prep led us into round 2 feedback, where we had financial experts give students both feedback on the content of what they were presenting and also just the stylistic pieces of it. And I would say, correct me if you feel differently, but the financial experts were really positive about your projects, right? They were pretty impressed. So that was a big kind of morale boost for the first time going through this project. And then finally, we're at the end of our kind of our roadmap here with our school committee presentation, which is going to focus mostly on the experience. Sam, if you go to the next slide. This is kind of a showcase of the images of what the student experiences look like. So the first 2 images are what it looks like from the Future Smart module. And then you can see how students were presenting their class. We had, that's Mrs. Tengler in the bottom middle slide. And then we had our experts who came into us through Zoom. So just kind of give you a visual of what that experience would look like for the students. And then if you want to take a look at the projects themselves, we provided you the link to the Inspired Innovation Center website. Obviously, we don't have enough time to go through all the presentations, but you can look at them at your own time. But we really wanted to kind of focus on the student experience. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the experts themselves. And we've got 3 kind of guiding questions for today. So first, if you can just pass the mic and introduce yourself, if your partner is not here, who you work with, and then what was kind of the focus of your topic. And then once we go through that, we'll go on to our next question. So start with you, Dylan.
Hi, I'm Dylan Javanainen. Hi, I'm Anthony Green.
And Anthony, hang on 1 second. Can you just talk about what your project focused on?
So our budget and Anthony's were focused on making a budget.
I'm Brady Gibbons. My partners are Lucia Ray and Gabby Alaka. Our project focused on setting a budget, opportunity cost, sales price, and I think that's it.
Hi, I work with PA School. We're focusing on assets and liability.
Hi, I'm Alyssa Wool. And I'm Celia Girl. And our project focused on budget.
I am Yusuf Carl, and my project is focused on working extra hours.
Hello, my name is Equox Bardwatch, and my project was focused on smart saving.
Hello, my name is Anastasia Kanak, and my project focused on budgeting.
So, Anastasia, we'll start with you. So what's one thing you learned from the Future Smart experience that you think every 7th grader or even every adult should know?
That finances aren't as complicated as they seem. I know that it seems like, before I went into this project, it seemed like kind of something that would take a lot of time to figure out, but that like the concept of finances themselves aren't that complicated.
I learned about a rainy day fund. I didn't really know what it was until I took the program. Yeah.
I learned that things that, so like, if you have like something that's like an alarm clock that's like $20 and another one that's $200, but it looks way better. Like the $20 alarm clock is gonna do the same like job, just cheaper.
I learned how important it is to have a budget. I learned that budgeting is a very important part of financial literacy.
I learned about assets and liabilities.
I learned how it's like important to know what each thing is and what it's like money for. I learned how important it is to save for the future.
I learned how it's important to save money for things that you might want to need in the future.
And so, last question, just make sure you speak into the mic as we think about our presentation skills. I should have modeled that better. What's one piece of information or feedback that you got from either our sessions together or our financial literacy expert that you'll carry with you either to make a revision to this project or a revision you made to the project or something you do in the future?
I think the way things are presented or shown is very important to someone's learning. Pictures and words work very well, but some things are better, like examples.
Like what I learned is like to speak a little bit slower, not too fast, like they can understand you.
Make sure you give good reasonings and examples for each thing.
I would put the timer on the screen and
I learned that visuals are a very important part of presenting a project. I learned that it's better to talk slower.
I learned that showing people like what you've done instead of just talking about it.
I learned that talking loud is not as good as talking slow. Like they're both, you have to have it for the middle sort of.
I learned that giving examples is one of the best ways to help someone understand the topic.
And one of my big takeaways from one of the financial experts is just the importance of story and trying to wrap things around a story. And that was one of the things, that a lot of our students did excellent, had some good feedback on how to tweak their story, but just the importance of narrative. And speaking of narrative, we're going on to the next slide. So the so what, now what? Let's talk about next steps for Misco Hill, and this ties into the bigger picture of a really exciting opportunity that's going on. So I'll turn it over to Jen Manion.
Thank you. I'm going to take all those great tips and use them right now. So we, as you know, were chosen for the PBL Leadership Network, and we spent 3 days fully across our team being trained. The first day we did something called SLICE, and that is an abbreviated version of project-based learning experience. And I feel like, much like all of you, I learned a lot from the project that we engaged in that I think is really going to stay with me, because I think that these strategies for learning are what make learning stick. I think the inclusion of student agency and choice, the relevancy piece, working on real world authentic problems, the collaboration skills that we've learned, the presentation skills, all feed into this format and structure that we use during project-based learning. So it's exciting to hear about what these guys have been engaged in, because I think that that's what we know about Misco, is we have a lot of pockets of greatness going on, and we just need to build on them and expand on them. A piece of our training was around the project as dessert versus the project as the unit. So this is an example where the project was the unit and students are engaged throughout the entire unit of instruction, not just producing something at the end to demonstrate learning. So I think that this is the shift that we're moving toward. In my slice that we did, Mrs. Kirkpatrick was there with me in my group. We had a choice of topics, and my group chose how to alleviate traffic congestion in Mexico City. Oh, what is my group thinking? And right now I could pass a test on those strategies. I could write an essay on it. I could engage in a debate right now. I can tell you about mitigation strategies used in Los Angeles. Los Angeles and their success rate. I could tell you about different parts of Brazil and what they've done to alleviate traffic congestion. And in terms of connection, which we know is part of what makes learning stick, we immediately came back and used what we learned to look at traffic flow patterns in municipal hallways. So it was just an experiential piece for us in terms of why we believe this learning, the style and instructional format is so important, and why it's becoming our goal at NISCO to engage learners in this. So as part of our participation in this leadership network, we are hoping to have 50% of NISCO staff trained in project-based learning instruction over the next 2 years, and have our students, every student engage in 2 units of instruction. We really believe that this promotes equity, inclusion, real-world learning. Our portrait of a learner competencies can be explicitly taught and assessed alongside our master framework standards. So we really feel like this is the way to go, and it's the way that we need to ride it. Really happy to have an opportunity to piggyback off of the work that all of you have done. Thank you so much for presenting tonight. It's great to hear all of you, and thank you, Mr. Quinn and Mr. LeVar and Mrs. Keever.
Questions, as always?
Great job. A lot of fun.
2 units of instruction, is that like over from 5th to 8th grade, like cumulatively, or how does that?
Because of the population of adults who are going to be trained, we're finding an access point so that every student will experience 2 units, whether it's in a core content class or an elective class. It could be an intercurricular unit so that the team is providing instruction in that unit together, or it could be within a classroom experience. So we have a lot of different models and versions going on. I think the great thing is that it's not an add-on, it's really a refining of our practice, taking what we do well and finding ways to improve it and hopefully hit that gold standard. Right now, that's not the goal. We keep saying all that glitters is not gold right now. Really, we're looking for some mini projects, some short wins, so that we can get the momentum going and spread practice.
I just want to ask the students, what was the most fun? What was the most fun part of it, of the project you just accomplished?
Who's that standing up here on camera?
I think the most fun for my group was probably making the video and writing the script. Britt?
I have a question for the students too. Is there anything that you guys changed about your practices after doing this project? Like how you spend your allowance, or anything that changed within your family based on what you learned?
He wants to get an allowance now.
Anybody have different thoughts on your own spending or saving habits?
Save more money, like where I've done, and then save more money and go saving up for a trip I want to go on.
Sure, we didn't invite you because we knew we would be presenting to a financial expert.
Next time.
Next time. No, thank you for always supporting us.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Really fantastic job. Super proud of all of you, and can't wait to continue. One of these, more than welcome to.
One day.
Okay, and up next we have Superintendent Administrator comments. So Dr. Cohen, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. And I'm actually going to hand it back over to Dr. Quinn, who's going to continue with a tech update. So we're doing kind of back to back.
Dr. Cohen also is learning the ins and outs of financial literacy. So this is buy one presentation, get one free. 2 for 1.
So, actually.
So we just throw my slides up, or it's a continuation? Keep going my slides back up. So while Sam is getting the slides back up, I want to just take a minute to thank Sam, Chris Karen, Joe Lakeview, Felipe Angel, and Liz Black, who I'm here on behalf of, who have just been a immense resource to the tech department, particularly with some of the things we're going to be talking about today. Because the biggest adventure that we had, slide, was basically the beginning of the end of our iPad refresh. As you can see up there, we had the stage stock. That was just the 11th grade iPads alone. We distributed them to the 12th grade and 9th grade. Our 10th graders were able to get them out in advance of MCAS. So when they were taking the written component of their MCAS, they were able to, for the first time, if they didn't have a computer they were using, be able to type on a keyboard. So we're really excited about that. We're really excited about the upgraded devices. We got out just about all of them and collected most of them, so we're in pretty good shape for the next phase of that transition to the old devices. But we're a lot of effort, a lot of planning. I want to thank the NITMUC staff for their flexibility, John and Mary Ann for helping us with the schedule, so logistics. We were fortunate to be able to create a process where students were not out of the period for more than about half of their class. So between checking in, giving their old device, having that checked, getting their new device set out. The first time we've done anything at this kind of scale. So I just want to thank our tech team for making that a reality. The other big thing that's on our radar right now is MCAS. I can't show you any pictures of MCAS because I don't think the state would be happy about that. So our tech team is really in the midst of MCAS now that it's all gone digital. We provide support in all 4 buildings. MISCO probably being the largest. That's kind of like our all hands on deck. We're involved from kind of the setting up of sessions to making sure that the students are assigned to the appropriate proctors, particularly if they have special accommodations. We're also involved with just providing just general tech support, getting kids replacement devices. Occasionally a student will come in with 1% battery. So we just try to, our biggest role is to try to decrease the stress so that way, as we talked about in our budget presentation, that technology is ubiquitous and visible and necessary. So you don't have to think about it, it's just there. And again, just trying to provide a calming presence. There's the way that the state has set up the system, it's pretty simple to proctor. It's not a lot for teachers to, there's not a lot that they can break, but still they take this really seriously. It's something that they're really diligent and conscientious about. So we just want to try to reduce that stress. Moving on to a little bit more inspiring things. So one of the other drivers from the technology department is our Inspired Innovation Center workshops. We're hosting monthly workshops with families that we're pleased to report are selling out within a day. We're hitting capacity and having to add sessions. We've done 3 at this point. One focused, actually I think it's 4 at this point, one focused on laser cutting. We have a full-scale laser cutter in our Innovation Center. You can see the students there made a sign, a delivery sign. So the challenge for the family was to make a sign that's both useful and meaningful. So they have deliveries that come to their front door all the time. They made a sign, they designed a sign that would take care of that. Some did it. There's a family that had challenges of remembering when Max was fed. So they created a sign, Max fed, Max needs food. So we try to use the Innovation Center just not to make creative things, but also make useful things. You also see that we've got one of our community partners, Chris Moran, helping students to learn kind of like the basics of Adobe Illustrator to create the graphic that could then be sent to our vinyl cutter, which was then weeded out. You can see a family there putting together the vinyl that will be then stamped onto a shirt. And then on our Inspired Innovation or Inspired Learning Days, you see Mr. O'Neill giving some students some feedback on their design through a game called The Extraordinaires. And one of the things that we really try to make a hallmark of an Inspired Innovation Center workshop is feedback and iteration. We want them to go through the process and improve and formally. We'll be closing out our workshop series at the end of May with a rocketry workshop. It's a send-off. It's the end of our grant with ASA. It's the end of our partnership, so we wanted to kind of do a nice send-off there. So we're really excited about that. Also wanted to give a update on Project Lead the Way. So this is where we are now. We'll talk a little bit about where we're headed in the future. So our robotics and automation in the 6th grade is in full swing. Taylor's doing a fantastic job diving right in and providing opportunities. That picture you see on the left is a student who's in the process of trying to build a amusement ride based on what they've learned about how to use the different gears and rotors and chains. So they're really excited. Then you'll see design and modeling, which took place with Beth Gervais in the first semester, focused on the design process for helping a child who has CP both participate in a game that's fun and meaningful to them. Every student group had like a different student. So this is a particularly good one here, where the student loved to cook. So they built a game around cooking. This was flipping the pancakes. And what you notice about the pancakes is they're all different sizes. One of the goals of design and modeling is to create an inclusive game that anybody can play, but also build physical strength as they're doing it. So the pancakes are a little different way. And depending on where you grab the frying pan, it's a little bit more difficult. And then as of these last two on the end are fresh from today. Lori Holloway, one of our 8th grade science teachers, in conjunction with Casey Rhodes, another one of our science teachers, has started a unit on nanotechnologies, and students were looking at nanofabrics. So if you apply Scotchgard, what is the nanotechnology doing to prevent those stains? And what does a treated piece of fabric look like versus a non-treated piece of fabric? So we're heading into that stretch, and that kind of leads us into what's on the horizon. So we've got a very busy end to the year. We were awarded the $25,000 grant from the Mass STEM Hub and the 1-8 Foundation to launch our computer science program up at the high school. We're also awarded a $5,000 grant from the Blackstone Valley Ed Foundation to start the beginnings of an innovation pathway. So that's ramping up. We're getting teachers trained this summer. We also have more science and technology coming down the pike for the 8th grade. So we've got a applied chemistry unit focused on both making ice cream, and then they do a simulation of an oil spill. Then to round out the year, which I'm kind of personally excited about, is the applied physics, where they first do kind of a roller coaster challenge with marbles, but then they are working on a Rube Goldberg machine. But the twist is that each group has to work the Rube Goldberg machine into one another's pieces. So there's like an additional design element that they all have to make it fit and work together. And then in our 7th grade technology class, Mrs. Gervais is doing computer science for innovators and makers. We're also bringing in our 7th grade Project Lead the Way program with energy and the environment, focused on solar energy and heat retention. And then, as I mentioned, the ASA grant. And then finally, to close out the year, we'll be submitting a Innovation Pathways Planning grant to support a more substantive program here at the high school. Credit to the math department, who have just been spearheading this. Their intrinsic motivation is contagious, combined with support with John and Marianne and from our central office administration. It's a real good amalgamation of people who are enthusiastic and trying to create awesome opportunities for kids. So that's the roundup for technology. But if there's any topic I didn't cover and you'd like to talk about, do that now too.
MCAS question.
Sure.
Just speaking, because I've been proctoring them all week. A little MCAS out myself. But I'm wondering how our infrastructure handles all of that. Like, I know in my school, the internet kept going in and out, and access was some kind of an issue. How did that work out for us?
Thanks to the support of this committee, the budgetary workings of Jay Byer, and the technology infrastructure designed by Joe Lakeview, supported by this team, we had no issues whatsoever. Knock on wood. Everything's been good as long as I've been here, and there hasn't been any issue that we haven't been able to resolve.
That's fantastic.
Thank you for your investment in our infrastructure.
Great question too. So with the computer science type of classes, have students expressed interest in pursuing those subjects like in high school? Because I know it would have been really useful for me to have that middle school, so I could, yeah, have a better time, choosing my classes in like sophomore year.
Yeah, so right now, I believe we have it's a class called Computer Science Principles. It's serving 40 kids right now. Ms. Alabozic runs the class. Students are, it's a heterogeneously grouped class. So we've got students with like a range of experiences. That's usually the second level course. There's an essentials course, and then there's a principles course. The principles course allows you to take it for AP credit. So this is kind of like some students are really stretching themselves in this class. We're also, so the next move would be to Computer Science A, which is, it's a really big leap. So we're looking for, what do we provide as kind of like a bridge programs for those 40 students who have kind of made that commitment and continuing on. So we're looking at a Python course for those students who want to continue. On the back end, so what we're doing is kind of for that feeder program for the students who've had it in 7th grade and 8th grade, the Project Lead the Way model. We're going to be building it next year will become the Computer Science Essentials, which is going to kind of be building our baseline. Mrs. Gilchrist and Mrs. Schwartz have been starting a club at our middle school, Girls Who Code, to start developing interest there, trying to piggyback on the VEX robotics piece. The other thing that really dovetails nicely is that the model of Project Lead the Way is an activity project problem, which aligns really nicely with the work we're trying to do with project-based learning. So students are going to be hearing a similar language in their middle school and hopefully continuing up to their high school, which I know, there's been a big emphasis on authentic learning. So, we're just trying to continue that pathway.
Interesting, thank you.
Sorry we didn't get it to you sooner.
That was actually, I was going to ask something about the computer science program as well. So the focus, whether it be theoretical and building system software or building more applications, business type of usage of data. So is it going to focus on the data approach for computer science or the actual hardcore computer science development?
So I think the way I would describe it, and I wouldn't say that I could quote the curriculum verbatim, but my general understanding is that at least with the essentials, getting people on the escalator. So it's a lot of robotics, hands-on, real-world applications, but from a very simplistic approach to build that interest. What you're describing is more like towards that principles, that second-year course in that Computer Science A. The fourth-year course, it's not necessarily fourth year, but we've also got a cybersecurity course going online as well as part of our pathway. So I think what we're trying to do is help students potentially see themselves in different areas of computer science, and so that the way they want to stick with it.
Thank you.
Very much. Thanks, Ed. Thank you.
Jump in, and thank you, Dave, for that. And one thing that you might be noticing is we're starting to build out our programming. So a lot of our work a number of years ago, and you can see building out with Project Lead the Way, but also just to bring up that financial literacy piece that we started with EverFi at the middle school, which is a free program, was one of the first things we did probably 4 years ago. I'm looking back in math classes, and then kind of building out in some science classes as well. We also, a couple years ago, received a financial literacy grant. And with that grant, we had some of our members of our social studies to look at social studies and economic standards, and as well as business teachers at the high school to start build that programming of personal finance and financial literacy in middle school through the high school. So every year we're building upon it, but it's a really collaborative work with our teachers, especially computer science. You've heard about it all throughout this year. That's a great example of how we've been working towards that, and then we're also working towards the programming and having consistency and vertical alignment at the elementary too. So I really appreciate all the hard work that Dave has put into it, but our teachers who stand up and say, hey, we have to do that. And I'm really excited about, we had a lot of training that project-based learning in the past, pre-COVID. And now the fact that we're in the school leadership network that Jen was talking about PBL, that's really gonna build out
again, more teachers building their capacity to expand these skills as well. So I'm excited about that. I have a number of updates that I just want to share and make sure that you're aware, but also that the public's aware of some events that just took place and are coming up. So I'm going to kind of go through some of those, and I can take any questions at the end. Our district co-hosted a Blackstone Valley Educator Job Fair this past Thursday at Milford High School. It was from 4 to 6:30. I was there along with district representatives of Cheryl, Nick, Wendy, and Marianne, so I really appreciate them being there during the fair. We estimate, we didn't have a sign-in list for the whole fair. We're going to do that next time, but all of us estimated we had about 100 potential educators that came through over the course of those 2.5 hours. So what they would do, we were all set up just like any kind of hiring fair together. Each district was represented with all of our fancy, swag and, gear and promotional, booklets there. And they really liked ours, so just,
Nice.
we stood out. But anyways, they came over, we got to talk to them, ask and talk about some of our openings that are just, were announced last week, any of our retirements or resignations or leaves of absence, any openings we knew about now, we just posted on Thursday, and then a second round will come out after we go through our town meetings and postings. So we're thinking, because it was so successful by having so many candidates come through, and many districts have lots of openings, right now, that we may look to see if we can find another kind of open similar type of activity as well. So that was great. This past week, so I haven't talked about COVID in a little while, which has been a nice little break, but I just want to give an update. I know we received a few questions this past week. Overall, we're still maintaining low numbers of cases across the district, and just to inform everyone that we are monitoring it daily, attendance, COVID cases daily, our nurses, it's reported weekly to me, I report it weekly to the state, and then I complete the dashboard. If we see any increases that are happening in certain areas, we're in contact with our nurse. So the school that had more this past week was Missville Hill Middle School. So looked into it. I know we got a couple questions on it, and it was really distributed across all of the grades. So we had 2 in 5th grade or 2 in 6th grade, and we didn't see any connections within school. And about 4 of them were coming from out of family members that had caught COVID out of school. So just to know that we contacted Board of Health, I'm talking to the nurses, and we monitor it every week. So just we're feeling pretty comfortable. The warm weather is going to really help. We are able to start getting now with this windy weather, windows open more, glasses out. It's going to be looking good, but we are monitoring it. So I just wanted to keep you updated on that. Upcoming district events. We're thrilled to be bringing back our district international night and want to put it on everyone's calendar. We hope that you'll be able to attend. It's on May 12th at 5:30 p.m. and it will be hosted at Nipmuc High School. We'll be using the large spaces like we have in the past, cafeteria, auditorium, lobby. It's spearheaded by our Spanish immersion advisory board, as we have, and we highlight, basically the purpose is to highlight all different cultures, all different countries, and we do lots of fun activities. We do have performances by our students. Many of our Spanish immersion students will do different activities as well, but we expand beyond just our Spanish immersion program as well. And so it's a great, if you haven't been to it, I would just ask that any of our family, especially younger students, really enjoy it. And it's in Encanto theme, so there'll be doors, and we're excited about all of the themes that we'll be doing with that. So please come check it out. We also want to remind everyone that April is Autism Awareness or Autism Acceptance Month. In the district, we've been hosting a number of activities throughout the month, such as wearing blue or Autism Awareness t-shirts on Thursdays. I've walked into in my walkthroughs, I do walkthroughs in buildings every week, and have been able to see some presentations by some of our parents and staff members about autism awareness, which from kindergarten classes all the way into middle school and high school. And we've just been doing a lot with that, and just wanted to thank everyone who's put forth effort in that area in raising awareness. We're excited to be hosting some learning walks in collaboration with Ashland and Milford for our 2- and 3-year teachers. So I don't know if you recall, a few years ago, we started the mentor program. We had the first year mentor program, but expanded it to years 2 and 3, and we were able to bring that back thanks to the work of our interim assistant superintendent, Cheryl, back here. And it's going to be a day-long experience where they get to observe and meet with Java-like colleagues and participate in structured reflection, similar to like medical rounds, but it's like instructional rounds for educators. So we typically pick a different theme every time we do this, and go to a different district and they're able to go through. So we're excited to have that as well. And finally, part of our work this year and some of our strategic goals, many of the same team, Liz Black, Denise McGovern, Debbie Coyle, Joe Lakeview, Dave Quinn, they've all been working together to make adjustments to our data systems to enable more accurate and rapid translations in school and district messages and report cards for our ELL students and families. And it's making a huge difference. It seems like every week we say, oh, now we can add translate, and it's a button in Skillshare when I send out a message, and that just got added a week ago. And so before we had to go and do additional translations, now it's in Skillshare, so I can send out the messages. That's one example, report cards, etc. So we're just, as part of our communication plan, we're trying to make sure that we're able to communicate to all of our families. So that is my very quick rendition of few, and I did not overlap with Michael this time. And we didn't even plan that.
Yeah,
so
right.
it's pretty good. Usually we have the same events. I almost did wellness week and thought I'll probably do that, but we have a lot. We have a lot going on, and the one piece of it's busy in the spring, but it's also really exciting because there's just so many fun events, and we get to celebrate our students every week in different ways. And so it's nice to be able to highlight that here as well. So next we have, as we like to have at least quarterly updates with Jay Beyer. Jay is going to be coming up to provide an overview of some year-to-date expenditures and historical trends.
Right here.
All right. He's like stepping up behind.
Hi, everybody. How we doing tonight?
Hi, Jay.
Let's see. So you all got the year-to-date report, I believe, in your packets. It's traditional expenditure report that we do every year. We did it as of March 31st, so we can do it at the end of the third quarter. I think you also got a revenue report and a couple other things. I don't know who has the slide presentation, if Sam does. Okay, Sam has it. So as the students said when they were here, sometimes some graphics and visual things help in understanding some of this stuff, so we thought we'd go that route as well. I didn't know they were going to present that, but they reinforced it, so that's always a good thing. So let's start off with this. What I've done here is basically, the budget, what we spent year to date as of March 31st, and the percentage we've used over the last 4 years. You can see we've been pretty consistent. I can tell you for FY22, one of the reasons that we're down at only 64% is because we hadn't been billed for our transportation since last October. Those bills came in this past week. So they're not reflected in the third quarter there, but we did get all the bills finally. But it's been pretty consistent, about 70%, somewhere in there. So I think that's fairly good. We should be, theoretically at 75%, so we're a little under as far as overall expenditures. As far as some of the accounts that I'm paying attention to, maintenance, heating, and buildings, we've talked about this before. The cost of oil, the cost of gas is dramatically higher than we had planned on a year and a half ago when we put the budget together. I can give you an example. For heating oil, last year we paid $1.67 a gallon. I would love to find that today, but I don't have that prices there. I believe I paid about $4.35 for my house recently. So that's one of the trends there that we're looking at. Obviously, it's above budget in almost all the cases. We've had an issue at Nipmuc as well, where the boilers, as you know, are being replaced, but they're not very efficient anymore. So that's basically one area that I'm a little bit concerned about, but I think we're going to be fine with that because we're pretty much through the heating season. General maintenance as well has been considerably higher, especially at Nipmuc and at Memorial. That one spike you see there, that's Clough. I don't know if you guys can see the accounts and see what the schools are, but that orange spike that's way up there, that was a fire suppression pump that we replaced at the end of the fiscal year when we had enough money to cover it. That's why that was so much higher. But other than that, we're trending, we're still in okay shape, but again, we're trending higher than I'd like us to see in that area. The ever famous snow removal, which I love to report on, as you know, and I haven't been able to do it all year. So tonight is my opportunity. I believe I'm going to go out on a limb and say that we're done with snow for the year. You guys can all call me up if we do get snow again. I'm sure you will. Buck and Memorial are the most difficult, so we have the highest expense there. Clough and Nisco are much easier to clear. Nipmuc just because of its magnitude and its size. Memorial, we have no place to put the snow, so we spend a lot of time moving snow to different places to get it out of the way. Clough and Nisco, we can kind of just push it off the parking lot, so it works a little bit easier. Two different contractors that work on that. Health insurance. We're trending in a fairly good taste right now. One of the things that I look at here is the deductible. We budget for the full liability we potentially could have, but always hope that we could come out less than that. We're about, I can't see it, about 84% right now. And then those other two to the right there, that's surcharges for Medicare for retirees and the retiree expense as well. Now, there'll be a journal adjustment done at the end of the year because the bills for retirees that are on our active plan are still paid for out of the active plan, and then we do an adjustment at the end when we have the total to put it to the retiree account. Only because the state wants us to separate the two, where in the past they never had us do that. Contracted services, I think we're in pretty good shape. Now, these are, the accounts are called medical therapeutic, but basically it's any contracted services, OT, PT, speech language, any of those kinds of things that are covered, that we have contracted employees that come in. So you can see, with the exception, it looks like of MISCO, we're in pretty good shape. We're actually in pretty good shape at MISCO as well. Nipmuc and Clough are in great shape. As you know, though, one of the things we did this year is we brought in a couple of employees and offset the contracted services. The budget was adjusted, so the fact that we're still doing well there is a good sign at the end of March. Out of district tuition and transportation, we've talked about quite a bit in the past. I think all of those are in good shape. You can see if you look at the historical from 4 years ago to now, the trend is downward. That's a good sign, and we can expect that to continue to next year, and that was reflected in the budget that you certified. Other things that we're doing, we've been working with National Grid and another company to do what's called reducing our capacity tag. So basically what's involved in that is 3 or 4 times a year they call us up and say, at 4 o'clock tomorrow, we want you to basically shut down your electricity as best you can for a 3-hour window. We look at what the savings are, and then we pay you for doing that. I figured, hey, what's the harm in that? So we did it last summer. We had 3 different times that they called us up and said, we want you to reduce your capacity. We did so. We so far have received about 2,500 hours out of that. The potential anticipation is that we could receive as much as $100,000 a year out of this. There's another piece that we just installed a solar panel at this school because this school is eligible for something else that reduces capacity tag. So we haven't really started that program yet. So that's one thing that we're working on. Overview Consulting is a company that I've worked with quite a bit over the years, mostly to get our gas and electricity supply in previous years. But they also want to come and try and look at other expenditures and stuff. And the contract that we've worked out with them, we're not paying them for the first 3 months. They're going to do 3 months for free. We're going to see how it goes. We're going to do another 3 months where we are going to pay them a fee. And then at the end of 6 months, we're going to decide whether we're going to sign on to this. Again, they're promoting that they can save us a fair amount of money. We'll find out after 3 to 6 months if that's really true or not. They've been very good with us in the past, so I'm fairly confident that they're going to pull through. The Mendon Green Community Committee, we did a replacement at both Clough and Memorial through the Upton and Mendon committees to replace the energy management systems for the HVAC system at both schools. We've had a lot of trouble with the one at Clough to the point that right now it is not operating at all. There's an upgrade we can do, but we're looking to see if we can apply for another grant to replace the system completely. What they did last time was just kind of put something on top of the old system. The systems are 20 years old, they're just not working. Excuse me. We also have a problem in this building where the system is 25 years old and we can't get parts. We've applied for a state earmark to see if we can get some funding for that. All of these are expensive projects. So we're looking to see if we can do this through some grant work, otherwise they will go on to the capital list that we'll probably be looking at in 2 or 3 years. Human resources, we've been working, as you know, we have a new person in that position, Lori Petty, who's doing a phenomenal job, but we're trying to sort of bring our HR department up into a more of a 21st century. It's not that we were doing things that we shouldn't do in the past, but there's a lot of technology that exists now that we want to take advantage of. And part of that is upgrading our budget software so that it has a little more employee access for all their records and stuff, and sort of modernizes a lot of the stuff that we've been doing by hand, things like hourly timesheets and stuff like that can all be automated through the software. So that's all the kinds of things we're working at as far as the budget. Other than that, I'm fairly confident that we're going to finish where we're going to be okay this year. I don't really see anything that's really alarming. What I did do is I created this last slide here, and this slide is actually interactive with a sheets workbook. If there's anything that you say, hey, can I see what these 5 accounts look like? I can pull them up, and this chart will adjust accordingly. The one I put up here right now is water and sewer. As you can see, MISCO and Clough. MISCO especially, we have spent quite a bit of money on the water treatment systems. We're expecting to spend a lot more before the year's out and in the next year. That's very challenging with the PFAS 6 stuff that we're dealing with. For any of you that are on private wells, there is a program through the DEP where you can have your well tested at their expense if you want to find out if you have PFAS in your own water. Apparently everybody has it, is what I'm finding out. So, sure.
To whatever level.
What's that?
To whatever level.
Yeah, well,
Just
so
whether you meet the states.
the fresh, well, yeah, to do it at your private well, like I applied for it, and I just got the information the other day that I'm qualified for it. They're going to come and test the water. It's 20 parts per trillion is the threshold. I think Clough was only at about 23 parts per trillion, so it was just barely over, but we still have to treat it. MISCO was higher. MISCO was around 40 or so. I don't know a lot of specifics as far as, I don't think it's a huge risk, but famous last words, right? It doesn't matter. It's a public water supply. We have to deal with it. We have to treat it. We're in the process of doing that right now. That's about it. Is there any questions, anything I haven't covered, anything you're wondering about?
So I want to compliment you again for presenting this information in perspective that's historical. It's fantastic. It gives more perspective to whatever we're talking about. So now I think the next step is just projecting in the future and finding out where those major expenses are going to drop.
Yeah.
So this is an excellent start. This is really fun.
Yeah, the challenge I always see is that I can tell you over the next couple of years, we're looking at water treatment issues, we're looking at some facility issues, but I can't tell you what's going to break next year because I didn't know what was going to break this year.
Yeah.
Ken Schwanier, who's the director of grounds, comes to see me pretty much every day or every other day at the minimum. Every day when he walks in my office, like, well, do you want to see pictures or do you want to hear a story? And then we go through all the various things that he's come across, and it's just amazing to me.
And he shares good news.
Oh, he does share good news first, yes. We have a policy now.
You have to share, when Ken comes in, you have to give me good news first, and then you can tell me.
Right, I mean, as a matter of fact,
So we have lots of good news.
Right, I didn't put it in here, but I should have done the revenue to show you where we are at there, but the revenue is.
I mean, the purpose of the future plan is not to go explicitly according to what you said.
Yes.
That's not the purpose of it.
Right.
The purpose is just to understand how you're going to be impacted and what the plan is for achieving the things that you need to achieve over the next 5 years. So once we have that plan in place, then everybody has perspective over what the changes to that plan will be out of necessity. So it just gives everybody more perspective rather than hitting you like pie in the face.
So I will say probably, I don't know if it's going to be in the next month and a half, we'll be coming back with the capital list of projects that we're looking at that we know are going to have to get dealt with. I've been saying all along, we're probably looking at 2025 is when we're going to start to come back to the towns for some sort of funding. There's a lot of things. These buildings, they're beautiful, and when you go in and they look great and you think they're almost new, but this building is 25 years old, Clough Memorial is 20 years old, and this is an antique. Things are going wrong that are going to have to get upgraded. One of the other things, I actually didn't mention this, we are looking at getting a price for the roof over the gym at this building here because we have an opportunity to get a 25 kilowatt solar system for free through, again, Solarized Mendon project that we would like to put up there, but we can't do it until we replace the shingles. So I don't know if it's going to work because
that's this building up.
This building at the high school, right on the gym. I think, again, I believe the gym, the backside faces south. That's what you want, is a south facing roof. I was thinking if you have a system you could put up there, you could really offset some of your electrical costs of this building. This is a high hitter. So we're looking at that as well, but obviously if they come back and tell us it's gonna cost $2 million to put the roof on the gym first, it's probably gonna kill it because we don't have that kind of money.
So how do you think we'll end the year?
Fine, I think we're not gonna end over budget, we're gonna end under budget. How much, I don't really know yet because I still don't have bills into the water treatment systems. And I don't know if we're even gonna get those by the end of this fiscal year. Because we're still waiting for approval at NISCO. We have approval at Clough. It's the same system, same treatment system, but they've only approved one so far.
Yeah.
We have the materials and we paid for the treatment tanks. The biggest challenge with the water treatment is that DEP doesn't know how to get rid of the medium that takes the PFAS out of the water. Right now, what they told me most recently is you have to incinerate it at 800 degrees. So maybe we'll start a crematorium or some kind of vocational program, I don't know. But so that's gonna be the challenge, is there's no place that actually does that right now. So we're gonna have this treatment, we're gonna have the medium taken out, it's gonna be in this big, 50-gallon drum, and they don't know what to do with it.
So nobody else has ever done this before?
It's a new thing, it just started testing for PFAS in the last year. So it's a whole new world, and so they're still, that's part of the reason it's taking so long to get it approved, is they're still navigating their way through it themselves. It is what it is. I mean, we will deal with it. But as far as this year, my anticipation is we're going to finish fairly strong. Again, a lot of what's helping us this year is we have a lot of grant money. So even things that may be in this budget, I may put into grants at the end of the year because we need to use the grants up, which will even help us further. Because then we can roll the money into E&D. Now, eventually these grants are going to go away, which is why we're trying to use them for one-time funds. But at the same time, eventually, we're going to have some challenges, I think, 3 years down the road, I would say.
Maybe they'll cover the roof.
Maybe. Well, I submitted that to the state as well, as one of the earmarks. We submitted about 10 different projects to the state. Renovating the media center here to do something so they could, reimagine what they're doing here. We put in the energy management systems, we put in the roof. We've got a stairway out here for the athletic wing that needs to be replaced. We have another one at Memorial that needs to be replaced at the loading dock. The stairway here is the one that goes from the parking lot by the band room.
So those are all capital improvements that you're looking to have done here?
So
those are all capital improvements you've applied to the state to get funding deferred?
Yeah, they have, well, no, they do these state earmarks.
Earmarks, so they asked us for a list and they asked us to give all different types of ranges.
Price
And
points.
so we gave them the range, we're hoping, we get the
Yeah.
larger ones, but there are smaller ones too, that will then, if we don't get that, we'll come forward with all of these capital
Yeah.
projects. So we can kind of have the full list and start to prioritize
Right.
too as we go forward, and so everyone's aware of where we're at with more details.
Right. All these things will be on the list. We just submitted a bunch of various things in hopes that maybe they would fund one or two of them. And then we submitted them to all four of our both state reps and 2 state senators. And they all got the same list, because what happens is that one guy will do this one, another one will do this one.
Why is the Chapter 70 revenue for FY21 $1 million? It looks like $1 million will must have come from FY22 to FY21. That goes from 9.3 to 10.3 and then back down to 8.3. In your historical
Show me what you're
revenue.
looking at, because I'm not sure what you're looking at.
Go to the historical revenue file you sent us?
Yeah, let me pull it up, because it's not sitting right.
It's the only thing that looks a little.
I can tell you why, I just gotta find it first. Give me a second. I probably already know what this is. Yes. So the reason 21 is so high is because in FY21, the Department of Revenue paid us our Chapter 70 money twice in July of 2020. And they didn't, I pointed it out to them, hey, you paid us twice, and they said, okay, well, we'll fix it as the year goes on, but they never did. So eventually at the end of the year, we had to return the money to them. So that's why, is that it reflects that the revenue was there. So it's about $1 million higher than it should have been in 21. So it should have been like 9.3 million.
It almost looks like FY21 and FY22 are flip-flop.
No, they're not.
Because but then the Upton assessment revenue actually drops by $500,000.
It's all about when it gets posted into the account or when we actually get it. Sometimes you get the check, maybe it hits our account April 1st instead of March 31st. So this was a cutoff as of March 31st.
I can concur. When I did the monthly breakout, that's exactly what I saw.
Yeah, they always tell you you're gonna get it on the 31st of the month or the 30th of the month, but every now and then it doesn't actually hit our bank account until the 1st or 2nd. So it just depends on, the deposits.
It'll be good to go through it.
All right, anything else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you. When will we find out on the solar system? Or is it all dependent on the?
Well, we can have it. It's ours if we want it. It's just where can we put it? And there's not really a good ground. It could be a ground-sided one, a sided one as well, but where on the ground can we put it where we don't need field space?
So we'll own that system?
Yes. Yes.
It won't be like a lease system?
No.
It won't be under the same project as the MISCO system?
No. This is a whole separate.
I understand that a little bit more. It's great news.
Well, it has to do with, if you remember, Mendon and Upton both did a Mendon solarized Upton. Part of that is if they had enough sales through that, they got something in return, and what they got was a 25 kilowatt system. So Ann Mazar, who's been spearheading this, has been calling me saying, look, tell me a school we can put it on. We want to put it there. So we're just trying to find a place. The problem is that we don't have the ground space to put it, and the roofs all have to be replaced everywhere. So my thought is the easiest roof to replace is the shingles on the gym. So this is just my 2 cents, is that's probably of all the things the easiest thing. Even if we just did the one
the
side.
space between the roadway and the baseball field.
The roadway and the baseball field.
Transmission line. Going beyond the fields as well, we have some of that.
Yeah, but you have to somehow get it connected to the building.
Yeah, I don't know about the transmission line
And
distance.
I'm thinking if you put it near a baseball field and it's low to the ground, unless these hitters be really good. It's like you could put it on the roof.
I tell you, if we hit that many homers, it's maybe worth it.
Yeah, right. So anyway, I think the system's there and it's available to us if we want it.
That's great.
So Ken's getting a price on it, is when it gets down. If we find that we can pull it off and do enough of the roof to get it up there, we will do that.
That's great. Thank you.
All right, then we'll shift to our next agenda item, which would be our school committee subcommittee updates. And it looks like we have policy up for tonight.
Yes, we met at 6 o'clock. 6 hours ago. To discuss policy JEB, entrance to school. So we are looking at a revision of this policy to just to update this, to bring it into alignment with the current MASC policy. So we did a first reading that we will send out, and then we would look to do a second reading at our next meeting. We can vote to adopt that new policy or revised policy. Sorry. And then we are continuing to review policies in section B, board governance and operations. And so we have a couple, we've made some tweaks, again, just to update and align with MASC. So BBA, school committee powers and duties, and BBAA, school committee member authority. So we have a first reading. We had a first reading of those, and so we'll set those around and look at our next thing. And then a couple of others. We started to look at BBBA, BBB, and we'll look at that at our next policy subcommittee meeting, along with some others with lots of G's in them. Yeah.
Some twisters there for you.
So BBBC doesn't have a link on the notes page.
Well, we didn't get to that one.
We didn't get to it.
Oh, we're not doing that.
BBBA was so exciting.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I got as far as the BB.
Just the first three, Sean.
I like to allocate time, 3:00 in the morning, wake up and do the policy readings.
Sean, I'll link it in.
Send you that spreadsheet.
Oh my God.
Nice. Thank you, Vicky. All right, unless we have some more BBBs to talk about, we'll go on to new business. We need to talk about the Golden Apple Awards and setting a timeline for nominations and conferring the awards. So I believe that we set up this subcommittee was it May last year, June last year? If I remember correctly, I think all of us volunteered to be on this committee.
Yep.
So we need to establish a timeline for some meetings so that we can pick our award winners for the end of this year. We've done 3, isn't that where we are now?
I believe it's 2.
2?
We did three last year.
Yeah, that's what I
It's
thought.
3.
Yeah.
Well, we might have increased it.
We did, oh yeah, that's right. It used to be 1 in, like, the midpoint and 1 in June, and then, so we moved to 3 at the end of the year.
Right.
Yeah.
I know we've shifted some things the last couple of years. Okay, so,
The end of the school year, the school year, right? The end of the
Yeah.
school year.
June, it was June.
Yeah, because didn't we give them out in once upon?
We did,
No, it
we
was
used to
no.
do that.
Okay.
We used to do that.
Yeah.
But now we've switched to having $3 ones.
Yeah.
Correct? We
Right
did 2
after.
every year,
Okay.
every 6 months,
Okay.
we did
All right.
1.
yeah. Okay, so timeline.
So we're saying we want to accomplish this by June, right?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm hearing. So,
And I can just add, I put in the notes just what the last form was for you to review to see if those are the same questions that you want to keep. And I'm more than happy to create the new Google form and send it out if you want any other questions or anything to change on it, or otherwise I can just create it like that and just, you can let me know the timeline for sending, I can send that out soon, and that'll give us more time for getting information, so it's not as rushed. I think it went out at the end of May last year, like close to June. So it was a quick turnaround, but
Yeah.
better if people have more time.
I'm trying to remember, as we've read through these recommendations for Golden Apple, were there any reviews that we thought should be more complete? Is there any more guidance we can give people with this list of questions?
They were really good last year.
They were.
I mean, it was like 200.
Yeah. I think that if we're giving suggestions to folks who are filling these out, stories, examples have been helpful. Like I can say the folks who've won, at least since I've been on the committee, tend to be the people where there's some sort of compelling story. I think that since I even started on this to last year, we've seen an increase in the number of students who are actually nominating staff members, which I think has been pretty powerful within that committee. If a student is taking the time to nominate a staff member, that's really important to us. So can you remind me, Maureen, who we share the nomination forms with? How are people accessing them? Is it going?
I'm assuming we sent it out through emails
Yeah.
to probably all the community members and including students.
Okay.
And, nope, we sent it to staff too. I have the folder here of all, and so in looking in length, once you had a limit like 500 words or less, 100 words or less for some, so all of them fell within one page of it. And on the bottom, I see, it looks like just family members or students, so it looks like that's who it would go out to.
I would encourage and Michael, maybe we need to direct this towards you,
Yeah.
students to be nominating,
Right.
people who are really important to them. I know, for example, that's how, Simon won his a couple years ago because there were several students who wrote some really wonderful things about him.
Yeah.
So, if you can spread that around, your peers, we really do take their words to heart. So, end of May is a deadline for forms.
Looks like last year it was June 13th was last call.
Was last call for the nominations.
Yeah, from June 13th.
I think that was late.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
of
and
the-
it went out, I think it went out at the beginning of June, it was like a 2 week.
Got it.
Yeah,
So-
and I think we were a little delayed because there was so much
Yeah.
else going on.
So I think
You
you
don't
probably
say.
want more time to set up a meeting
Yeah.
and not feel rushed to go through it.
Yeah. Because I think we've also seen an upward trend in the number of nominations over the
Right.
last couple of years, so having a little bit of time to actually read through those would be nice. So if somebody has a calendar up, do we want to pick a date at this point?
We have a meeting on the 23rd.
23rd of May?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, prior to?
Prior to that.
Those meetings go for.
Are those budget meetings that we're doing in there?
Maybe an hour.
No, I mean, there's not enough time.
Oh, you're talking
Yeah.
for us, the
If we
subcommittee
do like a
meeting.
6
Oh.
o'clock, that's not good.
No, that,
No, probably not.
that's usually a longer one.
Memorial Day on the 30th. So are we looking in June?
We have 2 school committee meetings scheduled for June, so you could present the award at either meeting. So it could be in the beginning meeting, which might be June 6th or 20th. I wouldn't recommend the 20th.
Yeah, we do the 6th.
Meeting on the 20th?
Oh, no, we don't,
Juneteenth.
Juneteenth, and so that's the original one. So right now, we have the 6th that's scheduled, and then we'd have to determine if we felt we need,
We should do it
another date. So I would say the 6th.
That's,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
we should do it the
right?
6th, because last year we did it after school ended
Yeah.
and one of the teachers wasn't able to be there.
Yeah, it's better to do the 6th.
So then just work backwards from that.
Yeah. If you can open nominations on May 1st, have them done for 2 weeks, May 13th, that gives us 2 weeks to then review it, and then hand it on the 6th.
What if we meet on the 25th?
The Wednesday?
Yeah.
That's fine with me.
Looks good on my calendar.
Did you just say May, are you talking
May
May
25th.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the senior music night that night.
Oh,
At
yeah.
7,
Nope, sorry.
so you can meet prior, but you can't meet at 7.
Sorry. Sorry. Was there a reason we're not gonna do the 23rd? There's no school committee meeting that night?
There is a school.
Oh, is there?
There is, yeah, on the 23rd, yeah.
Right.
You know, I think last year we got the package and then we met that night or the next day or whatever, so it's really good. If we get the package ahead of time, we could probably do it in
Read through it independently.
doing an hour meeting before
Yeah.
the school committee meeting.
Or even
Okay.
without, like.
So as long as we get the info to you with enough
Yeah.
time in advance for you to read
Yeah.
it, you could do it at
Do it 5:30.
5:30 on the 23rd, is what you're saying?
5:30 and 23rd, we'll do
Okay.
a marathon.
Can we commit to coming to that meeting on the 23rd with our top 3 candidates in mind, something like that?
We have to do it.
Okay, all right. So I think you had done that last time, thinking that helped to organize our thinking pretty quickly.
I was organized, really.
You were.
Where are we gonna
Student
go?
reps can
Here?
come to that, right?
Yeah. absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right here,
Here, let's do it in the gathering room.
or, okay, gathering room.
Because everyone else is coming in to set up for the meeting, so that way you have the.
Sounds good.
Okay, perfect.
So just to follow up, nominations are gonna go out on May 1st, or are they going out soon?
I'll send the form out before May 1st, no later than May 1st, it'll be sooner than that. And then their deadline would be. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Great.
Thank you. Sorry, there were so many dates
Yeah.
going on. I'm not quite sure what would.
No, that's helpful. Thank you for asking the question. Great. And you asked about the Google form as well, Maureen, if there was any suggestions or anything. Did anybody have any feedback on that? I kind of like the form the way it's been. It seems to have worked. Oh, and one thing we did talk about last time was getting feedback to the nominator, or nominators, is that a word? Am I making words up? Nominator?
Nominee.
Right, thank you. So if we could make it clear, because not everybody left their email or their name. So if there's some way to emphasize, if you wouldn't mind leaving your name or email so that we can.
I can make it required in the form.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions, concerns, Golden Apple? No. All right. Awesome. Okay, next agenda item, moving on to other matters not anticipated by the committee within 48 hours of the posted meeting. Having none, we're going to move on to correspondence. Again, none. Looking at future agenda items, we have an audit presentation coming up on May 9th. School choice for the 2022-2023 school year, and the district action plan update coming up in future agenda items. Then we're going to, at this point, then roll call to executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A, exemption number 2, to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel. The committee will not be returning to open session tonight. And
Second, and then John Nichols and I.
Eric Fry.
Carrie Lawrence, aye.
Bulldozer eye.
Dorothy Scalia, aye. All right, we are adjourned